I need to rely on God because I can't call my mom or dad to come in. There's a thing right there that's materializing itself and it's probably a demon, punch it. Like, it doesn't happen like that. I listen to hip hop for a specific purpose. I don't necessarily listen to hip hop for just the entertainment of it all. Like, I study who I feel like is the best in a particular area, which is kind of funny. Most music that I listen to that I just listen to for entertainment is like classical Chinese music or like neo soul. Like, I don't know.
Well, you're blowing my mind, man. You see that it's a book of the future. It's a prophecy book. I mean, it kind of tells you at the end. And every time something's going on in the world, man, I'm like, where are we at?
If they don't see 5 million in me, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about, And the last thing they said to me is opportunities like this only come once in a lifetime. You're never going to be in another position like this again. And I said, hey, good, because I was like,
thank God.
Like,
Amen.
you just walk away from it and be like, the devil really tried to get me. Didn't Satan have 350? I really need something right now. No, look, call JG Wentworth, right? 877 cash now. I ain't calling Satan. Chill out on that one.
Real interviews, real guests, no actors, real talk.
What's going on? Scott DeVore here. This is the Free Factor Podcast. I'm with my main man, Aura, Caleb with a K, Caleb Jones. What's going on, Aura?
How you doing, man? My name is Aura, or Caleb Jones. I give my whole government out, so y'all can check me out on Facebook too. I'm from New Jersey. I stay in St. Augustine, but I get active in Jacksonville. And lately, what I've been on is everything beyond the scene, whether it's beyond the scene physically, as far as location, or beyond the scene, like the things of faith. And I represent the Auraverse. So I'm glad to be here with Mr. Scott DeVore.
All right, man. The Auraverse. Maybe we can get into that. I know you got a whole merch line and everything. What I love about you is extremely talented artist. We've crossed paths a few times. I actually did a show together that I was putting on that you were down with, and I'm like, man, this dude is like nice. Where did all the hip hop, the rapping, the flowing, the freestyling, where did all that start with you?
So like, it's funny. So I love the origin story because like it's almost never documented, but I tell it a lot. So where it ended up starting was I used to go home and watch 106 in Park like way back in the day. This is probably like 2010, 2009 and stuff. So I get back home as I did usually after middle school, and then went straight upstairs. I was watching 106 in Park, and one of the music videos for Little Twist came on. It was called New Money. And I didn't have any passions or like dreams at that time, but at that point it was like rap looked like, oh, I can do this and I can like make money off of it. Like just listening to the lyrics. It's kind of funny how things will inspire you. So I was like, yeah, I want to be a rapper. And at the same time I thought that, my best friend at the time, Brandon, had called me. He was like, bro, have you ever thought about rapping? And I was like, I just thought about it right now. So he was like, hey, every good rapper knows how to freestyle. Let's freestyle. So he went on and he freestyled for like a minute or so. And then I ended up freestyling for like 10 minutes or something, right? It was probably some like cat in the hat rhyme schemes, but it was just like I was connected words. So he was like, you're good at this. So I ended up just writing. Took an hour. He said, I'm gonna call you back in an hour. Let's write something now. So I write this whole verse and he's like going crazy. We're like 11 spazzing out over my 16s and stuff. They were horrific. But he encouraged that like we should stay at this like continuously. So I ended up getting influenced by like Lil Wayne, Big Pun, Big L, a lot of the people that were like the greats of like multi-syllabic rhyming and freestyling and everything like that. But at the same time that I started my hip hop journey is the same time I started my spiritual journey. And that was like at 11. And I started learning about things like subliminal messaging, subconscious, and, the power of music, and then understanding it as an instrument rather than just being like, hey, then that new money, like the origin was new money. The journey began in the spiritual. Then it became, there's a message behind music and I need to say something profound. So I started getting into the more profound side of secular music, but then I started understanding it's more beyond like the secular, but the spiritual and stuff. And that's when I started having those things woven into a lot of my writings. Freestyling was always a thing where it was like, my freestyling has to be just as good as my writing. So I always practice it. And I was heartbroken one time because I used to listen to this one Biggie Smalls freestyle on the radio. And it was one of his songs that he had on his upcoming album. So I was like, wait, do people actually freestyle on these radio shows? And people were like, no, most of them, those are all like written verses. and I was heartbroken. It was like I found out Santa Claus didn't exist, but good thing I never believed in him either. So, hey.
Man, all right, dude, that's so awesome. There's a lot of unpack there. I can't believe you said Big L,
Yeah.
right? Because Big L, like, I remember when I was into hip hop, like really, like in the early '90s, and that was like kind of Big L's era. And you're talking about 2010. Big Pun, he had already been passed away for like 10, 12 years at that point. Kind of like an old soul, right?
True.
For sure. And when you did that 106 in Park, I think Free was the chick who's, great name because I also go by Free.
Yeah.
But was music really really instrumental in the household you grew up in? Were a lot of people in your family, your parents or whatever, listening to music, like hip hop specifically?
So the funny thing is nobody really listened to hip hop like that in my house. It was, to be honest, the only person who kind of dabbled in it like that, and it was more so like the alternative hip hop, was my brother. But the thing is, I grew up with my dad listening to Luther Vandross, Earth, Wind and Fire, all the oldies but goodies, Maze. It was a lot of them. There's one guy, but his name kind of slips me and stuff like that. I mean, Marvin Gaye was in there too. Yeah. It was pretty much all those like, classic ones that were in there. And I really enjoyed those. I had this one iPod my dad gave me, and it was like the old one, like the brick thick one, where like it still had the buttons on it and stuff, and you only had that one little aux cord on top. And he gave it to me, and it had all the different music that he would play in the car. So I used to listen to that all the time when, I was alone or whatever and stuff, or in the car. So I actually started out all the way until the age of 11, really just listening to R&B music for the most part. The only time that I was really introduced to hip hop was like when the radio was playing for the most part. And that's when I heard like 50 Cent, T-Pain, back in the day, Missy Elliott, and Sierra, the one song with Sierra and Missy Elliott and stuff, the 1-2 Step, that bridge on that song was so amazing. It reminds me about New Jersey, but nobody was really into music like that, to be honest. My mom played gospel music all the time when we were in the car. That's the only thing that she's ever played is gospel music. So I would say that, and it's kind of funny that I land into making hip hop with not having like musicians in the background,
Yeah. So this started when you were still in Jersey, when you had this moment where you were, you and your boys, did the freestyle. This is before you moved to Florida, or were you already in Florida?
So I left New Jersey in 2009.
Okay.
And then that happened like 2010, about a year or so into it, because I came here and I was in the last grade of elementary school, moving into middle school.
Gotcha.
And then I think the second year of middle school is when I started getting into hip hop, and that moment happened. So I was here by that time.
Okay. Was your boy here in Florida, or was he from back up in Jersey?
Oh, no, he was here in Florida.
Okay.
I lost connection with everybody from New Jersey at that, because okay, guys, I am kind of old, right? So I was growing up and developing while the internet was developing. So the internet was a teenager. Well, no, it was kind of old, but cell phones and stuff like that, like nobody was really texting. It was those phones where you have to like double tap until you get to that.
Right. Yeah. You have to hit like 7 3 times to get an R. Yeah.
No facts. And it's kind of crazy too. And this is just a sidebar, but it's just funny how I think about it, how fast like phones evolved. So it kind of feels like I feel old in a sense, because I'm like, I had the first touchscreen phone, which was a Trio. It was like a Trio something, right? And they had the Blackberries at that time too. And the flip phones was really popular. So it's like I was alive when flip phones was popular. I had the first touchscreen phone, but now I'm like, he's still young while the newest iPhone is still scamming everybody with new features. You know what I mean? So it's like interesting.
That's so funny. Dude, I was, so I'm like 20 years older than you. Like, you think you're old. I'm like almost 50. But so I graduated high school in 97. I was born in 79. And I got my first cell phone in 1998.
Oh, wow.
And this is where it costs like $10 a minute. Like, that's how much it cost, right? So you had to, but then there was this promotion where the first minute of the incoming call is free.
Yeah.
So we played a game, right? Like, okay, call me. You're like looking, you're talking to your friend, because you got to give like, hey man, I'm over at the 7-Eleven on this corner. You like, come meet me. But you're trying to say everything you need to say within that first minute, so you ain't got to pay that $10. But I thought it was I was like a freshman in college in '98, so I thought it was a baller. I getting some, but I think I bought the phone from Radio Shack. I don't even know what type of phone it was, but then I had a couple flip phones. But then when the iPhone came out in 2008, yeah, dude, that was like the greatest thing because that's like I had a vision of what a phone should be, with phone, with the internet, with video and everything, and then then the iPhone came out. It's not it wasn't like a vision, like I was this prophet. I'm sure a lot of people thought, hey, it would be a good concept to pretty much make a phone, a computer, and a video camera together.
True.
And then when that came out, I'm like, this is the greatest thing. So I didn't like wait in line for it when I think it came out in October 2008, and I think I bought my first one like in November.
Yeah.
So I've had I've been an iPhone guy
True.
ever since, and like my cell phone number. Like I said, I got my first cell phone in '98, so that's almost 30 years ago. I think I can't even do
that's
math.
26. Because I was born in '98.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my cell phone number is like I grew up in Maryland, and I haven't been in Maryland in like decades.
Yeah.
But my cell phone number is still from Maryland from when I got my very first like cell phone because I was in Cali, it's in LA for a while, and Cali. So Maryland's main area code is 301, but LA is 310.
Got you.
So when I was in Cali and people were like, oh, what's your number? If I'm like, at like, the grocery store, put into my rewards points. I'm like, 301. They're like trying to correct me. 310?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's 301.
Yeah.
I know my number. Right?
Like, are you sure? You ain't going to get the reward points if you're scamming me, right? No.
Yeah,
that's
man.
what people kind of are right now.
All right, man, back to you, bro. So you're like 2011 or so, you start freestyling. Like, when did things like pick up? When did you be like, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this? Like, what was like that journey like in the early years of doing the music?
So it was funny. Leading up to that, there were so many times where I was writing and I would hear somebody else rap and I'd be like, yo, I suck. I'm terrible. I'm not good. And I told myself that I'd never give up on any dreams after my first one. So moving into hip hop, what happened was I was 16. I was listening to Big Pun. I was listening to the second verse of You Came Up that features Noriega on the chorus, right? So the beginning parts of that second verse, he was like, hey, yo, I'm still the same. The way you remember me since the Centipede, all the big placard back in the 70s. And I used to model a lot of the songs that I was writing at that time after the songs I thought were like the best and had the best flows. So I made this one song. It was like, hey, yo, I remember saying all the pain that almost ended me, feeling the trend of entropy, mentally, detrimentally, milliseconds, not centuries. And like after I finished that piece and I kept on going to people in school and like rapping it to them, they're like, yo, this is crazy. And I remember I thought to myself, like, I can do something. Like, I'm actually good at this. Like, I can do this. So it was that point at 16 that I was like, yeah, no, I can take this somewhere. And then also just being in tune with what the message was that I was always delivering and feeling like I was saying things that were impactful and like made sense. And I was like, okay, this is the way that I can express myself. When I used to show people that verse and stuff, they used to be like, dang. So I was like, okay, when I talk regularly a lot of times back then, it felt like the message doesn't get across. But then when I show people the music, it was like they were tuned in. So I knew like it clicked at that moment.
You mentioned your spiritual walk kind of started at the same time with the music journey. So you said your mom was listening to gospel. Like, was it a Christian house you grew up in? What was it like? And like, was there like a particular thing that happened to you? I don't know how long you've been saved or whatever, but want to maybe like, is your testimony tied into the music? Like, what is that? What was that like?
So like, it's interesting. So I started like really being deeply involved in my Christian walk at 11, and that happened based off of the oddest of circumstances because I was in an Xbox 360 lobby. These stories start so weird. Like,
oh, dude, they're amazing. Like, they're so unique. They're so you, though.
So pretty much I was playing like Call of Duty with some friends, and they were like, hey, you're a rapper now. They was like, would you sign to any label? And I was like, of course. Like, I'm not knowing what labels are really. And they're like, would you sign to Eminem's label? And I was like, what is his label? They said the Illuminati. And I was like, Of course I'll sign to it. They're like, oh, you're sick. And they kicked me out. I was like, yo, they must have really hated Eminem to kick me out of there. And then it was Sunday, the day after. I'm talking to my brother at church, and I'm like, Kevin, like, I was talking to these guys, and I think they really hate, like, Eminem, because I told them that I would sign to the Illuminati because that's Eminem's label, and I joined the label. They got mad at me. I was like, what's the Illuminati? And then he was like, go look it up. And then I just looked it up, and the funniest part about it is, people have that whole thing, like if you believe in the Illuminati and all that stuff, tinfoil hat, all that and stuff. For some reason, every time I would look these videos up, they would always talk about Jesus and be like, line things with scriptures. Like, this is how the world is, and this is how you see the world, and this is the pictures, this is the videos, these are the documents. Like, these things were giving me, like, it was crazy. And I don't know, FBI, don't tap the phones. But there's a picture I have, right, that I got a long time ago, which is like an entryway into the center of the earth. Not the center, but like underground stuff from Antarctica that happened on this, like, random excavation mission that happened between the British government and the United States of America, right? So, like, I'm over here, like, collecting crazy data. But the thing is, it was always pointing back towards God. And I was understanding to myself, the world is crazy. Like, and it's crazy to the point to where it's like this, right? It let me know that I have to know how to think, right? And it was guiding me. First thing that I heard when I had actually started looking at those videos, one person said in the beginning of the video, and it felt like I actually had a gaming menu the first time in real life that I was interfacing with, because there was a pause. And he said, the more wisdom you gain, the more sorrow you gain. Do you want to continue learning more? And I was like, yes.
Deep, man.
Yeah. And like, it literally started from that point on. And not too long after that, my youth pastor at the time had this project. He said, I want you guys to pick one book in the Bible, read it in its entirety, and then make a creative project off of it. Now, nobody ended up making the project, but I ended up, because I think they ended up leaving or something like that, but something happened. But what happened was I read and I chose Revelations. And he said, Revelations? He was like, most people skip over that book. And I'm not saying to skip over it, but you picking that as, like, he was like, have you ever read through the Bible before? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, that's interesting picking Revelations as your first book. But he was like, hey, do it. Do it. And I was like, okay. So I got deep into Revelations. And I think that also started opening me up to knowing that there's so much beyond, and there's so much out there. Right after I started reading the book of Revelations and getting into it, I started having, like, spiritual manifestations in my room, like sleep paralysis and everything. And I started being like, oh, snap. Like, all that stuff you see in, like, those different, hear about those, like, psycho thrillers and whatever and stuff like that. Not actually like it as an entirety, but, it manifests in its ways. And I started understanding there's an enemy. Like, I know there's an enemy, and we talk about them in the way that there's effects and there's things in the world and influences. But I was actually seeing supernatural things in a tangible way. And I was like, well, I need to rely on God, because I can't call my mom or dad to come in. There's a thing right there that's materializing itself, and it's probably a demon, and punch it. Like, it doesn't happen like that. So it was radical. What happened was at 11, I decide, but then after I decide, it's like one of my feet goes into the spiritual realm. And now everything that people kind of don't have too much faith in because they don't see it, it was like my faith was solidified because I was allowed to see things that most people won't, so.
Man, that's wild right there. So you start reading Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've read it multiple times, since then. I have loved reading Revelation. I probably read that book more than any other books, just because, it's a book of the future. It's a prophecy book. I mean, kind of tells you at the end. Yeah. And every time something's going on in the world, man, I'm like, where are we at in Revelation? Like, what church? So. But you're pretty young, right?
Yes, sir.
Like early teens, mid-teens, there, and about that time frame.
Yeah.
When did the crossover from kind of rapping, being inspired by Big Pun and Big L and whatever, like when did you start making like Christian hip hop music? I'm Scott DeVore with DeVore Capital. We are a multi-service construction, real estate, and development company. We do services from ground-up development to roofing services to real estate transactions. Reach out to us at 8444-DEVORE or at the website link below.
So it's kind of crazy because I was making a lot of it while listening to it, because when I used to listen to music, like when I used to listen to them, which I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, I haven't listened to Tupac in years. Like, there was a point to where I had to make a decision about how I was feeling, like certain convictions about that. But I was writing music with the messages that I still carry, like to this day. Everything was life and life as it's seen in a Christian perspective, or just being a Christian, understanding these things, you know. It's kind of like when people talk about like the culture and stuff like that, and you know, if you have some street guys talk about like, you know, whatever is happening out there, they have their lingo, you know. The lingo and the speech that you carry as a Christian was always woven in my music, you know. But it was like, it's time to leave all that other, like, you know, art to the side, because I'm consuming it for the technical aspect of studying it. I wasn't, because I'm not really the guy to just like listen to hip hop. I listen to hip hop for a specific purpose. I don't necessarily listen to hip hop for just the entertainment of it all. Like, I study who I feel like is the best in a particular area, which is kind of funny. Most music that I listen to, that I just listen to for entertainment, is like classical Chinese music or like neo soul. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, you blowing my mind, man. These things that you say, classical Chinese. I would not have put that on the radar of something that would inspire you.
Like, it's just weird. It's like, because I did make the most important part of it was really making the decision of the nature of what I chose to listen to. A lot of times I just listen to beats if I'm not listening to like Christian hip hop in general and stuff like that. Because once again, I'm not one of those guys who's like Christian hip hop's corny or whatever. Of course, I'm not one of those guys and stuff like that, being in the space. But it's like I was such a student of it that I felt like that I kind of isolated myself in that purpose of like only studying it when I was in it, or creating while I was in it. So I like collaborating with guys more so than that. But I'll tell you another thing though, to get to more of what the question is about. When I did the show with Three, the first show that I did, and I saw all them up there and listened to their lyrics of what they were speaking about, I felt like there's more that I can do, you know. And there's songs that I do go deep into speaking about God and a message that is scripturally based, instead of just putting my life out there and saying the sprinkles on top is Christian, so it's Christian, you know? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a decision that I've been working on currently too, because I don't want it to come off like two things. I don't want to come off like gimmicky, like the brand. How do I structure this brand wise to make myself CHH, you know? And I don't want to also be in a place to where I'm collaborating and making work that has a message that's not redeemable in any kind of spiritual fashion, but then say, well, my verse is like, you know, the brighter part of it. So I had to start cutting off certain collaborations with artists that I used to really like to work with because of their artistry, because of the music, but then also knowing like, hey, this is an internal thing. It's not just in the booth thing, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's, I think, the Holy Spirit put that on you. You're listening to it, right? Because, Paul talks about, you don't want to sin against your conscience, right? Mm-hmm. Or like if you're doing something that is not necessarily sin, like, like you're consuming alcohol, I don't know if you drink or whatever, but then if you have a brother who has a problem with it and it could lead them to sin, if your conscience is telling you shouldn't do that, then you shouldn't do it. And I think a lot of people I met, including myself, has had this thing with music. And not that I ever collaborated with artists, to make a song. I'm not an artist. I just like to play the music. I like to DJ. But there was a season where the Holy Spirit just like convicted me of like not listening to any hip hop. This is before I knew there was Christian hip hop.
Yeah.
So this is like secular hip hop that I would listen to, going back from the late 80s, early 90s. And then when I got saved in the early 2000s, I went like 10 years with like no hip hop at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered contemporary Christian music like Hillsong and um, Mercy Me and all those types of groups. But then now I do listen to secular hip hop really because I'm just studying, because I've been doing a lot with music and I'm like studying. I want to know like what's trending, what sounds good. And I appreciate the art. But when I was new in my Christian walk, when I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ in the early 2000s, I think there's a reason why I was convicted of not listening to music, because I was not that I would like listen to like Eazy-E and like want to go like fight somebody or like sell like some rocks or whatever. But I was just new and not even though I wasn't like committing like the things that the music was saying, like the crimes, but it just wasn't good for me at that point in my life. But like now, not that I'm not endorsing that every Christian should listen to secular hip hop music by any means, but I just think that the Holy Spirit will kind of tell you. So if you're like, hey, I shouldn't be collaborating with these types of artists, for the reasons that you feel convicted of, where you can see someone like Lecrae. Lecrae will cross over. He did that song with Ty Dolla $ign and everything, and he caught a lot of flack with that.
Yeah.
But Lecrae gets scrutinized more than any other artist out there. And, sometimes they'd be like, yeah, man, I don't even know Lecrae is really a Christian and he's doing all this. But then when I actually truly listen to his words, I'm like, oh, snap. Like, I felt Lecrae when he was saying that.
True.
And again, we can't really be judging people. Obviously, if their fruit will tell you if they're
exactly
right. And when I not that I'm examining the fruit of Lecrae, right?
Yeah.
like a lot of people like want to do. I'm like, okay, I think this dude is really genuine. Like it's it's his life, and it's like we don't know what the Lord is telling him and what he wants to do. So, anyways, man, when you like started thinking about the music you're making, the songs, the collaboration, and you kind of got to the point, was there like some like Christian hip hop artists that you were able to get in fellowship with, that you were doing music with? Like, when did things like really start picking up with your music?
So as far as like getting deeper into that community, or as far as getting into the community more and stuff like that, once I met with 3 and the Infiltrate, it was a community there. I had removed myself off of the secular scene in Jacksonville for some time. After doing that and I met with them, the communication's been good. The things we've been able to do have been great and stuff. And I feel like that's been motivating me, to be more active in a community at all, because, they're very holistically aware. And what I mean by that is being in the secular scene. The secular scene is kind of like wherever the wind blows, And then a lot of times when the secular scene is like organized, it's almost like, I'm trying to think of the word. I don't want to make it sound too crazy, But I'm going to say it how it is. It's like when, things get dark, right? And like when darkness gets smart, it just gets real bad, And then it's like a real compromises. You get into a group of people who their focus is money, right? The conversation is money. And if they have a formula and you come in and you don't fit any of the variables that makes the formula equal money, they don't want to. But the thing is, it's a perfect switch, right? Because the thing is, they come in, if they don't see 5 million in me, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about, But the thing is, if I go in there and I'm doing all the different things like they do, if I dress like how they dress, if I get that producer to put that beat that way, and I'm talking about whatever under the sun, then they're going to be like, yeah, we're going to cut the check. So it's like, you notice quickly if you have the right conversations and ask the right questions, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be here. Because it's, hey, look, we're not opening the doors for people that make the music that you make, or the people opening doors for our people and our artists. They're not willing to operate with you. So you go out into the rest of the scene that say they want to do it independently, because at that point you're like, well, I got to figure out how to do it myself. And the thing is, the whole idea of strength in numbers, And the thing is, numerics don't really define like what the intention is. So you can have 50 people in a room, but that doesn't necessarily tell me what the direction is, You know, they could be there for whatever. And that's what it is and still is and was in the secular scene when I was out there. And pride, you know, then when you get into the field of uncontrolled, unorganized secularism, that's when, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah is just out there, you know, dancing and playing the beats the loudest, and they be like, hey, we'll let anybody come through and perform and do this. And then you kind of got to understand to yourself, okay, I'm putting myself in this space, right? Me being in this space isn't changing the space. So if it ain't changing the space, I've been here that long, that wasn't going to change. So I need to move, you know, unless I'm willing and I'm ready for that influence to do what it does to everybody else, you know. Once I remove myself, then comes infiltrate. Now it's like, okay, you move out of the craziness and now you're in the calm, the peace, the light, the direction, and, you know, the sensible conversations, the ones where it's more than just the money. Like now it's on the flip side. I go to these guys and it's like, man, where's your heart at with this? You know, me and my brother, Jaquan Tyreek, we had made this deal, right? Because we had some different dealings happen in the circles that we were in previously, where, you know, some guys was just too caught up with the ladies, you know? And one of our rules is if you can't control your lust issues and say, you ain't coming on tour with us, you know? It doesn't matter how much money you gonna make us. It's about when we go out here and we're serving a purpose, we got to keep the integrity intact. So now after having that show with 3 and then being able to be around them, as well as after isolating myself, that's when things actually started moving in my favor a lot, because a lot of wasted time is no longer being wasted, you know?
Yeah. And that's, praise God, man. And that's kind of a recent thing too.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear the whole story of how you know, linked up with Infiltrate Records and how you met 3 and got started with them. But man, I want to, before we kind of go there, I want to go back to the secularism, because I want to know, like, when was like the first external person other than mom and dad, your boys, like this guy's nice. Like, when did, like, who was like, and you don't even have to name their names, you know, but I'm sure something happened, like, or you put out something like, oh man, who's this guy? What's he got going on? And then you started to get invited into some rooms, where it's either they want to see, like, you know, more about like your, you know, who you are as an artist, skill, and then, you know, we had lunch the other day, and you know, you were kind of sharing a little bit. Again, we don't need to go into, like, we can take it however far you want to go into some of these stories. But what was like the first thing, person, event, show, concert where on the secular side, like, man, this guy got something, and you're like where it flattered you, right? Like, man, like, okay, this person in the industry or whatever, like, recognized the talent. Like, when did that first happen with you?
That was 2017. My ex-girlfriend at the time was like, you know, she knew I did music and stuff, of course. And she was like, yo, you should come out to this one thing. It's called Art Walk in Jacksonville. So I was like, okay, cool. She was like, yeah, they had this one section where, like, you can freestyle and everything. And I was like, that's all me.
Yeah.
You know? So I go out there freestyling. You know, the guys are like, okay, like, yo, this guy's, he's still going? Oh, okay. So then I get approached by this one guy, and he's like, hey, look, we got this show coming. It's called, you know, Trapping Out the Ville. And I go there, right? It's crazy story, right? So what happens is I go out there. Now, the thing is, going to a cypher is like kind of almost family reunion-esque in nature. You know what I mean? It's just like cool. It's just like, oh, the guys, oh, yeah, cool. But then I didn't know how, like, Jack's venue circuits were like. So they say, hey, like, there's this venue. You come here. All right, cool. So, you know, I invite my guys. I'm like, yo, I got this show. They're like, oh, snap, really? So I go in. Then when I go in, and I'm like, okay, I see outside, and it looks like this big club. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a nice venue. When I walk in, I see, like, poles in the middle of the venue, like a stage. And they're just like, yeah, you're performing there. And I'm just like, oh, the optics on this ain't it. We can't do no photos in here. So and this is where I was like, I'm really in the wrong place. So the promoter over there, and he's talking, he's like, yeah, you know what I mean? He was like, hey, bro, what's your name? And I was like, it's I am Aura. He was like, okay, Aura. And I was like, no, like, it's the whole phrase. Like, I am. He was like, all right, cool. Aura about to come to the stage. So I was like, okay, cool. So he had these mics, and they were like in different pockets. So I went to reach for one of the mics. I was like, oh, wait, that's a gun. I was like, oh, snap. Okay, well, good. Don't touch that one. That's not the microphone. So I get on the stage and I start performing, right? I'm in this strip club, essentially, where I'm rapping and my lyrics are talking about God and praying and fasting. And then I'm just like, I see all these guys that it's just a GTA lobby, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty sure nobody enjoyed this at all. I'm pretty sure nobody. So I walk over and I go and ask for some water, because if you ever been to some of these clubs or venues and stuff like that, everybody is smoking, and I don't smoke. And I don't eat that much either. I do a lot of intermittent fasting. So that is just the perfect equation for the worst migraine ever. So I go to the bar. She's like, what you want to drink? And I was like, I just want a water. I just want water. So she was like, your music is really good. Like, I actually like how you're talking about, like, you know, these deep things and stuff. And like, these are some of the dancers who are like working at the bar this night and stuff like that. Cause like they had the artists there. So they're like, yeah, you know, it's deep. And like, that's what I want to hear more of. I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, you know, I'm in this place where I feel like shouldn't be at, but like these people are coming up to me and saying, yo, I like the music and the message and how it's deep. So I'm walking around, these guys from radio stations and stuff are just like, yo, it's nice. And I was just like, probably not going to want to get booked for another strip club, but I'm glad that the message actually seeped through. But it showed me that it didn't really matter what people looked like or what people's background was like. If I was put in front of an audience and I gave my performance the way that I did, they were going to receive it. And I was like, okay, I don't need to be like this scene in order to get reception from it. I can be myself and still maintain, you know, just being impactful at the end of the day. And that's what was clearest to me, not necessarily bringing the biggest audiences, but the fact that the audience hears what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah. Man, that's a crazy story. I remember Lecrae was talking about one of his songs was played in the strip club where like someone did like a TikTok or like a reel.
Yeah.
And like Lecrae's like, well, you know, I forget what song it was, but just hearing that, obviously it's like a place, a lot of sin, you know, debauchery, you know, going on, but then, you know, a positive light gets you know, shine in a dark place like that. So I'm sure you got plenty more crazy stories like that, but were you close to getting signed secularly, like with the label? Like, I know you like mentioned like, you know, you already mentioned Illuminati once. Hopefully, man, but like we don't get like, you know, whatever, you know, track down from that. But you've seen a lot of the you've been exposed a little bit to like kind of even more of the dark side of the industry, where you hear the phrase like selling your soul.
Yeah.
You got any more stories like, you know, again, man, like don't go like if you take it to where you want.
I'm putting out Social Security.
You want, but want to hear like maybe a little bit about that. Then I want to talk about, you know, just linking up with Infiltrate and how that all got started.
Yeah. So I came across a deal broker while in Orlando, and they had got in contact with me, and I didn't know anything about deal brokers or anything like that. I don't know anything about industry personnel or how that works. So they see, you know, my music and stuff like that. They're like, you're really talented. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, I appreciate you. And then they were like, yeah, you know, I can really see you like getting signed this on the third and stuff like that. So they were saying, hey, look, make a long part of the story shorter because I don't remember all the details of the conversation. Essentially, they listened to my one album called I Am More Volume 2. And they were saying, you're really talented. You're too emotional, though. And I was like, okay, that was advice I didn't ask for. But I like that, I guess, okay. Like, that was the purpose of the whole album. But they were like, hey, look, to be honest, you know, you would do really good if you changed, you know, your music and your image and stuff. And this is what we'll do. You know, get you more like a street artist, you know, like rap more about that. They said, and the reason why is because, you know, black guys like, you know, gang and ignorant stuff, and black women like hood dudes. And I was just like, why is this person having like these are very weird, like predatory, like words. Like it sounds like you want the community down. And it's like you black yourself. Like what is this? So then they're like, they literally were saying the strangest stuff. Cause a lot of times you speak to somebody and they like want like have bad intentions. They try to at least make it sound somewhat, like I'm gonna steal your money, but I might pay you back, But it was just straightforward. It was just like, you just like sag your pants a little bit, and this and the third. I'm just like, this is some of the most wild dialogue I'm having. So my pushback was this. I was like,
I'm Scott DeVore with DeVore Capital Contracting, multi-service licensed construction company. We are a certified roofing and general contractor. We do everything from residential to commercial roofing and all other construction services. If you are a homeowner or a commercial building owner and you have any roofing needs from repairs to replacements to tarping, please reach out to us at 844-4DeVore or at the link below.
Well, I have an image that I'm kind of like developing that I think would go along because they said, hey, look, we should really work on that good boy gone bad image. And I was like, okay, I don't know what in the Rihanna you think this is. I don't know about that. So I told them, I said, well, here's like a compromise, right? I'm going from this emotional stage, but I said, but I've been going through like this darker period of my life and I want to express a lot of that aggression in the production and that story, right? And they were like, that sounds cool. Now, the agreement is this. You make the kind of music we want. We front you $350 in cash. So $350,000 in cash, and then we fund a lifestyle and a look and an image for you. So it's not like I get this $350,000 and I get to go into real estate. No, it's we get you in this lifestyle, which is like that industry grooming kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it happen to other people. I was like, oh snap, they got him. They wanted to pull me into that lifestyle, but the thing was, I was telling them, I said, well, I have a team, like that I want. They're like, no, we have your team. And I was like, but the thing is, like, I already have people I've been working with and it's cohesive. And like, I have this image. And they said, how many records have you sold though? How many gold plaques you have? You have 0? Okay, then why are you trying to tell us what you should be doing while we're working with you? We're the ones that actually get things moving. They said in the music industry, it moves twice as fast as real life. The only people that actually make it are the people that listen and obey and do what they're told. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to make it. I ain't going to make it because I ain't going to lie to you. So after trying to push back, because it was a weird situation. I knew it was a no-go the way that it was being presented. But at the same time, I was having a lot of conflict about like, okay, well, I'm 21. I was like 2021, right? I got out of school because I had some acting projects that I wanted to be a part of that were open, but then got shut down because, the pandemic happened. I need to make something out of myself, and I can't be in a place where people are looking at me and be like, well, you ain't got nothing going on for yourself. And I can have $350,000 in my account right now. So I was wrestling with those thoughts, but then what always came to mind was, but what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but then lose his soul? Amen. And I was like, I know I can't sell my soul for this. So literally had negotiation. I actually texted some people too. And I was like, hey, look, this is going on right now and stuff. I'm trying to get them to give me creative freedom. Tell them I got a team, people that can run it, that we can do real business. And they're thinking about giving me the green light to go to Miami and stuff like that, where they had a studio, record for a month, get an album done, and then go along with it. But what ended up happening, the last conversation, they were kind of tired of me trying to augment the conditions of the agreement. And they were just like, hey, look, we're not going to let you do too much, because you're doing a lot of talking, but you don't have anything to show for it. Why should we let you do with our money what you want to do, and you haven't even shown us anything? Like all you have is the talent and the potential to influence people. And I was like, well, if that's all I have, and that's all y'all want, and I guess we just ain't making it happen. And the last thing they said to me is, opportunities like this only come once in a lifetime. You're never going to be in another position like this again. And I said, hey, good because I don't
Like, thank God.
like
Amen.
you just walk away from it and be like, the devil really tried to get me. Didn't Satan have 350? I really need something right now. No, look, call JG Wentworth, right? 877 cash now. I ain't calling Satan. Chill out on that one. So it was at that point where I was like, okay, this music industry stuff is crazy, especially when they asked me a question. They said, which one do you prefer, liquor or wine? And I said, I don't drink neither. And they're like, we didn't ask you that. Which one do you prefer? And they were saying all this while setting up a meeting for me to go to their office. But the thing is, they want me to stay in their hotel overnight. I told them I'll stay with my homie that stays on the college campus at UCF. They said, no, don't worry about that. We're going to have our drivers take you to the hotel, and that's where you're going to be. And I was like, and this is where the setup happens. Because after you start doing stuff like that and you accept it, you're going to be looking like Orlando Brown on them interviews. That's what happens afterwards. You know what I mean? You get that Disney effect. So I was like, I don't want to get caught up in that, you know? So that was pretty much.
Dude, that's like amazing. You know what? I think listening, when you start looking into those Illuminati videos,
Yeah.
right? And you start like looking at, like, you know, what people do, the
Sure.
behind the scenes, how they sell their soul and the, you know, the rabbit hole, like the things that like where they go. Man, I think that like that gave you so much like wisdom.
Yeah.
Like, so when you found yourself in a position,
True.
like you knew what was on the other side.
Exactly.
You knew what you had to give up, like what they wanted.
Yeah.
Because how many people would be like, man, 350 G's? Yeah, man, well, I don't care. I don't need to look at the contract.
True.
Right? But man, praise God, dude.
Yes, sir.
That's wild. So that happens. That's insane. I guess you took a little bit of a break, or what? Not really a break, but that was like in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Now you're like mid 20s, 26 or so, like now, and then you line up with someone who has the same love for the Lord, for God, the values with Infiltrate Records. So how did that all come together?
So it was crazy. So, well, after the craziness happened, I actually went full throttle, just kept going. I know a lot of people sometimes they may take a break because it's like, okay, this may be not what I'm trying to get into, but I was like, there's a way that I can make something happen. So, shout out to the Ether Child, Matthew, because he had brought me to some networking events. He had DM'd me on Instagram, but we didn't meet until I actually caught up with him and we crossed paths in person for the first time at Vibe Live Studios' old location. You know, now they're located downtown. When he saw me, he was like, hey, man, like, I'm, you know, so-and-so from IG. And I was like, oh, hey, like, and I was like, hey, bro, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I probably ain't see your DM, so I don't really, like, know necessarily who you are. So we got acquainted there, and we exchanged numbers and started communicating from there on. He was just the olive branch, you know? Like, and that's the type of stuff I like because I'm the same type of person to extend the information. And he started telling me about these networking events. There was a creative networking hub and stuff like that. And then he was telling me about Murray Hill Theater. So they were having a show. And then he put me on to the set list. That's how I got connected with Miss June. When I met her that day and she heard my music, she really enjoyed just speaking to me and my performances. So moving on from there, the sound guys were hearing some of my performances when I would do follow-up shows. So one of the guys who runs the sound, he pretty much heard about 3's show and that they're missing one of the acts that was originally there. And they said, hey, well, we need another guy to come through. So he said, hey, I know this guy, Aura. They're like, get him. And then I came through and they were just like, hey, man, like I heard your songs, I heard you perform, and you're the first dude that came to mind to reach out to. I was like, hey, I appreciate you. Meanwhile, I didn't know nothing about Blake and the rest of the team, right? So I get there and I'm just like, hey, what's up, guys? You know what I mean? Chopping it up with the artists like I usually do. And, you know, I'm doing sound check and they're like, yeah, you know, really rocking with me. This whole time, I don't know that it's a label that's here. I perform. And, you know, Blake is so funny because, like, he's, like, always excited and amped. Like, the same way he is in his promotional videos and stuff. Like, that's his actual, like, mannerisms just regularly. Like, I've seen this man. This is the first man I ever seen be like super excited talking while eating a pizza. Like if you could ever imagine somebody doing that, it's just like, this is who this person is, like all the way through. So he was like, yeah, man, after the performance, we have this like label, love to talk to you, man, catch up. And I just feel like you're gifted and anointed for this, man, so I want to talk to you. So while doing everything that I'm doing, like outside the music and stuff, it's kind of like, trying to keep up with communication, but I want to be really intentional with him and the rest of the team. So after that performance, we get connected. I start like, reaching out to them. He's inviting me out to the studio, asking me like, hey, what kind of help do you need? And it's not even like, he's not told me to sign anything or I'm obligated to do this if this is exchanged. Like, it's literally been, I spend more time trying to figure out how I can be an asset to infiltrate than he does trying to require anything out of me. I feel like he just sees where I'm at and he's just like, I want to be a part of like helping cultivate that. So like I said, it was literally like night and day, the exchange and the switch that ended up happening, because after that show, it's really been just a really great relationship forming.
Yeah.
Just him and the whole team,
Yeah, that's so awesome. And that's like, what, a couple years of that you guys have been?
Nah, it's been
Like a year?
not
Like,
even.
Like
it's
9
been-
months?
Has it even been that? I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's probably been. This is crazy. Shout out to Apple. They have this one feature where you can like look up the videos and stuff like that and see what date it is. Because I actually want to have this on film of when that was. Because what's crazy is a lot of great connections have been forming, and the depth and the substance within it has been like so great to where it's not even that long. This is August 9th, 2024. So August,
jeez.
it's like the 8th month.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
not even
about
6
5
months.
months. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not even half a year yet.
man. Okay. Jeez. That's crazy.
Thanks.
Nah, man, that's just so awesome how like things can kind of, come together, that quickly. And, I've known Blake just a little bit longer than
Yeah.
you. I've met him. I didn't even know he was an artist when I first met him.
Yeah.
It was by accident because Will, who works for me, he runs my construction real estate department, he did a podcast with Blake downstairs, the Mixed Theory Studios. We're
Gotcha.
on the 9th floor and Mixed Theory is on the 6th floor. And I was getting ready to do a podcast with someone because that's where we kind of started my podcast. We were using the studios down there and Mixed Theory. And, Will and Blake were coming out of one of the podcast rooms, and was like, "Hey, I want you to meet Blake." And we're talking about he was a veteran, and his business is he helps vets with getting their claims for like disability and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool, man. I was like, man, that guy has a phenomenal looking beard. That's all I remember of him,
Yeah.
right? And and we're in a music studio, and like
Yeah.
it doesn't even come up that he does music. So then.
Yeah.
Will, like months later, like not months, like 2 months later, Will shares the Crucify video,
Mhm.
and of like one that I love that it's my favorite song that Blake did, 3, and I'm like, hold on, like this is the same guy that I saw, like I didn't even know he was a musician and that this dude like raps,
Yeah.
like this is the kind of person I want to be friends with, like
True.
this is like my type of guy.
Mhm.
So then, like, I had Will, like, do more to, like, connect us. And then, like, him and I just started talking business and music, and we've become really good friends. But, man, yeah, I love that guy and what he's doing and what he's doing with the record label and just kind of seeing it, like, take off and grow and doing shows, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what's the future for you? Like, what do you got planned? Like, what's going on? We're in the beginning of 2025 right now. What music are you working on? Shows, projects? What's happening in the Auraverse?
What's happening in the Auraverse? So we actually just got fully operational, the Auraverse Studios. So we actually have a physical location that we're operating out of. So everything that's going to be produced moving forward, Mixed Theory Studios, the Auraverse Studios, and then anytime that Blake has me in some sessions and stuff like that, he knows I'm going to be there. And I record at home too. So one thing I've been working on is singles for this year leading up into bigger projects. So right now I have a single that I teased called Clear Out, which has been crazy. And that one is definitely going to be one that's going to put me on a map, and I have some good follow-up tracks. I actually have collaboration with 3 that we're planning on releasing sometime in the beginning of this year. Also, new clothing collections on the Auraverse clothing shop is coming. I actually just talked to one of my designers. We kind of have like 5 different collections that we're working on. So right now we're like mapping it out and then seeing how we're going to like make more unique graphics, designs, and really take a lot of the designs that you guys probably have seen on the hats, which we kind of pulled back on that product line because we're actually about to launch something even more large scale. So the Auraverse now has its own anime character, which is modeled after one of my like show outfits and stuff, and kind of working around creating some like narrative graphics and even probably potentially an anime, maybe,
Okay.
you know, based off of that character, showing a lot of stuff about the story and the journey of what's going on. And this year, we're being more intentional at the Auraverse Studios of documenting the journey of what's going on in the Auraverse, taking you back to the origins, and then also keeping you up to speed about present day at the same time. So it's kind of like Naruto, if you ever seen it. It's flashbacks all day, every day. So we're going to work very heavily on that. The biggest things is more shows, possibly have some tours lined up.
Okay.
And it's been amazing. I've been having great connections and stuff like that. I want to give a big shout out to Miss Tina and Miss Erica as well. So there's a lot developing, traveling. My main core audience is I'm pursuing you guys. We're going to find you and grow that base. And shows, the brand, the design, may have some anime coming, lots of visual content, maybe mini series, documentaries that we have on the website and stuff. Lots of exclusive content definitely on the way. So I think what's in the future right now is just a large explosion of just you guys are going to be visible in the world. You're not just going to hear it anymore. You guys are going to see it. You guys are going to feel it. So that's what is going to be the future.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited. I remember when I met you for the first time, and it was actually here in my office. We were getting ready to do that show we did, that festival in October, and we did a cipher in the office. And you know, I never knew, and I didn't know who you were, other than like in the chat with Blake. He's like, yeah, this is gonna have come through. I'd never heard a song, and we did the cipher. We were freestyling. And then, you know, we brought some food in, and, you know, some Publix wings and, you know, mac and cheese, all the good stuff. And we're just like playing, you know, we're sitting in the conference room with the food, and I'm just like getting some beats together because, you know, just like kind of getting things set up. And I'm just like kind of watching, observing you, and you're not really like freestyling in like the room where we're eating. I'm like, okay, like this guy's feeling it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to look out for him. So then when we come into this room that we're filming in now to do the cipher, bro, you just absolutely like killed it. Like I'm like, this dude is like talented. And so since then, you know, we did the show and just been listening to a lot of your music, and like you are like top tier talented. Like you like, I could see why the Illuminati was trying to get you like in your 20s, because they knew they like this guy is like, he has the talent, he has the skill. I'm glad that that you didn't go to the dark side, and that you're, you know, here and we had this opportunity to chop it up. I'm looking forward to what, you know, God's going to do, what doors are going to open up where you can do with music. And when they said you're never going to get an opportunity, you're never going to get big, man, that's a bunch of BS, because I know you're going to blow it up. You're absolutely going to blow up. So I'm excited to see it. And, you know, it's going to be a harder path. You know, you think, you know, harder as it's going to take a little bit longer time or whatever than, you know, just the doors opening up, and, you know, but, you know, that would have just led you to, you know, chaos and destruction.
True.
But I'm excited about 2025. The music, the shows, I know you got one coming up that you're going to be in middle of March. You're going to be on that set at Murray Hill, and man, it's just good stuff. So tell people where they can, like, parting words and how they can find you online.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and checking out what's going on with me and Mr. Scott DeVore and the Auraverse. And the biggest thing is just stay tuned in with the faith. You know, I know a lot of things in the physical are looking crazy, but like I said, this journey and the message lately has been going beyond the scene, and just a focus of getting everybody back to Jesus Christ. I know a lot of people say, if you say God, you know, what God are you talking about? No, we're talking about Jesus here, and the actual Jesus, Bible. Flip it open, read it, you know. And it's really a big push for that. A lot of stuff that I do is counterculture, but it's also pro-Christ. So counterculture, pro-Christ, and that's really what it is. I have a show March 14th. It's at Murray Hill Theater. It's going to be doors open at 7 p.m. We got an amazing lineup. We have Mission Key. We have Ether Child. We have JJ. And then we have T-Log, the headliner. And it's all set up by Infiltrate Records. So shout out to them, to the whole team. And also keep looking out. You can find me at wearetheauraverse.com. That's wearetheauraverse.com. That's where everything's going to be. We're making sure everything gets sent directly to you guys. So if you sign up today, join the website, 20% discounts for anything on the store. And that's great. And you have visibility to so many things, like my virtual reality studio, which is crazy. But at the end of the day, keep just flowing in the spirit and the fruits of the spirit, peace, joy, sound mind, self-control, and let the spirit lead, and don't lead with the physical, you know, because they're always at conflict with one another. So I want you guys to live in peace, keep it in peace. Peace.
Awesome. And what's the social media handle? I am Aura. Is that it?
Yes, it's IAMAURA68. Check it out. Link in the bio to explore everything that's going on. Share with your people. Comment if you want to. Hit me up. You know, I'm reachable. You know, if you want to have a conversation, I'm here for it. Especially young artists, old artists, whatever. Need information, need help. You know, need somebody to just be there for support. We're here, you know. Well, I'm here, you know.
Awesome stuff, man. Aura, Scott DeVore, a.k.a. Free. This is Free Factor. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, bell button notification, all the good stuff. Until next time, peace out.